True story. This is my second time making this video. Not like, haha, second draft. No, I mean, I was halfway through making the review and I'd almost beat the game when my computer decided it was gonna quit on me. So yeah, it no longer works. And of course, this happened right before a major game release at my studio. Perfect timing. Truly beautiful timing. Fortunately, I had a backup. Unfortunately, that backup did not include my video files or my script. And while I do have some tools coming in the mail to recover my files from the SSD drive on the computer, because there's some very important stuff in there, that stuff's not going to be here for another week. So yeah, here we are. Round 2. Let's pray this computer doesn't self-destruct. So yeah, my studio is working on a JRPG. We're releasing it on July 4th, and to celebrate making our own RPG, I figured, hey, why not review the original 4 NES Dragon Quest games? Because, why not? It sounds fun. And yes, I'm playing them in their original format on, well, an emulator that's emulating their original console. Or I'll be playing as close to the original console as I can get if a fan translation refuses to work, because some of these games never released in America. So, if the translation doesn't work, I'll find the next best thing. But the goal is authenticity here. You see, I want to suffer exactly the way you guys did growing up in the 1980s. And for everyone who didn't grow up in the 1980s and is wondering what Dragon Quest is, well, Dragon Quest is the first major console RPG ever made. Not the first RPG ever. PC players had Wizardry and Ultima long before this. But Dragon Quest is the one that said, what if we made an RPG that normal humans can understand? You see, Yuji Horii wanted to simplify the genre for console players. He even got Akira Toriyama on the project. Yes, the guy who made the legendary manga Dr. Slump. Oh, also he made Dragon Ball. Yeah, he made Dragon Ball as well. He handled the monster designs, which is why every enemy looks, let's call it Dragon Ball-like. And the music? That was Kenshi Shinigami. I probably butchered his name, but who cares? Who gave the series its iconic, classical, orchestral vibe. And while yes, I have beaten Dragon Quest 1 before on the Nintendo Switch, I have not played any other game in the series. So, this whole project is my chance to fix that. So with all that said, let's start our journey with Dragon Warrior on the NES. Yeah, I should mention now that Dragon Quest was called Dragon Warrior in America for the longest time. Anyway, let's venture forth. And to start this adventure off, all RPG fans, please rise, put your hands over your heart, and salute the national anthem of JRPGs. yeah, this is some of the good music in the game. And it's iconic to RPGs in general, so of course I had to point it out. So, after we're done with the title screen and press start, we got to name our character. And Dragon Warrior is one of those games where you can name your hero whatever you want. But here's the thing, your name actually affects your starting status. Yeah, so don't go naming your hero something random, like Tim or Jill. Kim Jong-un. I will now put a list on screen that shows you some pretty decent names you can name your character with decent stats. But personally, I went with Zelda. Why? Because I'm a huge Legend of Zelda fan, and also it makes the dialogue unintentionally hilarious. There's nothing funnier than the king telling Zelda to save the kingdom. And I'm just standing here like, buddy, wrong franchise. So, with naming our character out of the way, we start our journey in the kingdom of Alfgard. And inside Tentacle Castle, which, fun fact, is spelled like someone sneezed while typing. And let me run you down the backstory of what's going on here so you understand why you're standing in the castle. Long ago, the legendary hero Erdrick, or Loto if you're playing the Japanese version, or the Game Boy Color remake, he saved the world, and then he used the Ball of Light to drive away evil and keep the land peaceful. Winters were short, crops were good, and everyone was having a great time. Then about 6 months ago, before the game starts, the Dragon Lord showed up like the world's worst landlord. He attacked Tentacle Castle, he burned down the nearby town of Breckenary, he stole the Ball of Light, he unleashed monsters everywhere, and he turned parts of the world into poisonous swamps. Oh, and because he's a JRPG villain, he also kidnapped the princess. Because, of course he did. I'm guessing he knows that Dragon on Princess action does really, really well on OnlyFans. So he figured he would make an absolute killing, making smut, while he also took over the world. So, who is the Dragon Lord and where did he come from? Great questions. I have no idea. The game does not care to explain, so neither do I. So, 6 months after all that chaos happens, you show up. A random guy with no equipment, no money, no proof of anything. And the king just immediately believes you're the descendant of Erdrick. There's no test, no prophecy. Well, there is a prophecy, but he has no way to verify it's talking about you. And there's no DNA test or anything. He just looks at you and goes, ah yes, this completely unverified stranger is definitely the chosen hero. Anyway, get your ass to work. And that's how your adventure begins. So let's get into the game itself. And the first thing you're gonna notice is something every modern RPG player will find confusing. In most RPGs, pressing A just does the thing. Open chest, press A. Talk to an NPC, press A. Kick down the door, press A. Dragon Warrior says no. You will open a menu and manually select what you want to do. You want to open a chest? Press A and select take. Want to open a door? Press A and select door. Want to walk downstairs? Press A and select stairs. It's like the game is constantly asking you, are you really sure you want to do that? Really, really, really? To which I say, I pressed the fucking A button on top of a chest. Of course I want to fucking take it. It's goofy, and it's clunky, but hey, this was the first console RPG ever, so we'll cut it some slack. You get used to it, eventually. So, after that, we leave the castle, ready to begin the grand adventure And then we realize the game gives us absolutely zero direction. No quest markers, no glowing trails, no Navi screaming.
Hello? Look! Hey! Listen! Watch out!
I mean, you do know your ultimate objective: defeat the Dragon Lord. And you can even see his castle from the very start of the game. That's right! You can see it as soon as you start the game, just right below you. The only problem is, you have no idea how to get there. But if there's one thing we do know, it's that we need weapons. And to get weapons, you need money. And to get money, you need to do what you'll spend 80% of this game doing: grinding. Welcome to Dragon Warrior's gameplay loop. Fight weak enemies, get gold, buy slightly less terrible equipment, fight slightly less weaker enemies, repeat until your soul leaves your body and your character is a god among men. Now, this has to be the worst grind in RPG history. Like, this game has some of the worst grinding I've ever seen, and I've played a lot of RPGs. I swear, to go anywhere new in this game just about, you have to spend at least an hour just grinding to get your levels up, and to get better equipment. As a matter of fact, let me show you the map. You see, you start here at Tentacle Castle, but the further you walk away from it, the stronger the enemies get. That's the entire difficulty curve. The gameplay becomes grind, walk a little further, get obliterated, grind more, walk further, repeat until you can explore without instantly dying. So theoretically, you can go all over the world and go wherever you want. There's no restrictions, except for the Dragon Lord's castle, of course. But do that and you'll die. And also, how do you know where to go is probably what you're asking, if the game gives you no direction. Now, to be fair, it kinda does, but only kinda. You can get hints if you talk to NPCs, like a lonely extrovert at a party. And some NPCs give you genuinely helpful clues. Then some give you cryptic nonsense. And then there's NPCs like this guy, who says, "Enter where thou can." Wow! Thanks, buddy! Truly, the Stephen Hawking of Alfgard. Like, imagine applying that advice to real life. Trying to get into a concert? Enter where thou can. Job interview? Enter where thou can. Police questioning? Enter where thou can. Someone else's house? Enter where thou can. The ER? Enter where thou can. Trying to have some bedroom time with your girl? Enter where thou can. I'm sure she'll agree with you. I swear, this man's advice is one bad sentence away from getting you put on a medieval watch list. It's the kind of advice that sounds wise until you actually think about it for more than 3 seconds. Then you realize he's basically saying, just go in stuff. I don't know. Okay, with all those laughs out of the way, what is our next objective, you're probably wondering? And the answer is, it's up to you. You see, technically, there are only a handful of things that you actually need to do to beat the game Dragon Quest. All you really need are the 3 artifacts required to get the Rainbow Drop, which builds the Rainbow Bridge, which leads you to the Dragon Lord's castle, which we'll get to later. But for now, let me walk you through the order I tackled things in this playthrough. first, we head to this cave north of the castle, which has no enemies in it at all. It also has almost zero lighting, so I hope you brought a torch. And inside, you find a stone tablet left behind by your ancestor, Erdrick, which basically says, "Hey, future descendant, here's how you get to the Dragon Lord's castle. Good luck, don't die." You don't have to come here, but I just thought I would show it off because I ended up coming here on my first playthrough, back when I played on the Nintendo Switch, and I had no idea where in the hell I was supposed to go. So this tablet gave me some much needed direction. Kind of. The instructions it gives you are, there are 3 artifacts. They are held by the descendants of the 3 wise men. You need them to reach the Dragon Lord. And how are you supposed to know these descendants still exist? Or that they didn't pawn the artifacts off for beer money? No clue. But hey, it's a lead. And the next thing we need to do is grind your heart out and become slightly less pathetic so we can actually reach our next destination, Rimlindar, on the far east side of the map. You see, this is the town where you buy magic keys. Now technically there are other magic key vendors around the world, but you actually need a magic key in order to get to them. And you also need magic keys for basically every other door in the entire game. So yeah, make sure you buy a lot of these. Another thing you probably noticed is the fact that Rimlindar is not connected to the mainland. So, how do you get there? Do you take a boat? Do you ride a dragon like in the Nintendo Power commercial? No, you do neither of these things. And let's talk about these commercials for a second while we're on the topic, because, whoo boy, do they misrepresent the game. For one, the Nintendo Power commercial shows the hero riding a dragon. And there's another commercial that aired in America that shows the hero riding a horse. And I'm sitting here like, A, you cannot ride dragons in this game. B, there is not a single horse in this entire game to my knowledge. It's like the marketing team didn't actually play the game, they just saw the title and the genre and was like, yeah, we got this. Anyway, instead of boats or dragons, you go through a swamp cave that goes under the ocean. Yes, under the ocean. This cave is apparently unmapped, unmaintained, structurally questionable, and full of monsters. And yet, somehow, it hasn't collapsed, despite being a glorified dirt tunnel holding back several million gallons of seawater. Am I the only one who would not be at least a little bit worried about this? Like, one bad swing of the axe, and we all drown in here. But, maybe I'm thinking about it too hard. Anyway, we pop out on the other side of the tunnel and reach Rimlindar. And once you're in town, you can buy magic keys from a shop on the west side of town. And while we're here, let's talk about some of the locals, because Rimlindar has some interesting NPCs. There's this guy waiting for his girlfriend at the edge of town, which is odd. There's also a guard who claims he's met you before, but I have no idea who this guy is. If anyone who's played this game knows, leave it in the comments down below. And then there's the girl who says she has no tomatoes. It seems odd, but in the original Japanese version, she didn't say that. She offered you a puff puff. Yes, puff puff. And yes, it does tick me off that the American version removed this, because I wanted to motorboat this chick, damn it! So, after we've stocked up on magic keys, the next stop on our grand adventure is the town of Cole. You see, Cole is a nice little town on the north part of the map. So why do we need to make a detour here? Because we need to get the fairy flute from here, which is hidden in the dirt exactly 4 steps below the bathhouse. And there's actually an NPC in Rimlandar that tells you exactly how to find the flute. So, why do you need this flute? I'm glad you asked, because on the very south part of the map is a town called Canton. That's our next destination. Or, at some point, we'll head down there. All that's really there of importance is the fact that you can buy a flaming sword and a silver shield down there, both of which are extremely good pieces of equipment. But whether you decide to go down there or not is up to you. But if you want to go down there, I highly recommend taking the fairy flute, because guarding the entrance to the town is a giant golem as a boss fight. And unless you are incredibly powerful, he is extremely difficult to defeat. Unless you have the fairy flute, which puts him asleep instantly and makes the fight pathetically easy. And as far as key items go, the next major key item we need is in Tantacle Castle, where after using some of the magic keys, we can get into the back of the castle where the cellar is, which is also where the sunstone is. Why is the sunstone in the cellar? Absolutely no idea. But now we have one of the 3 major artifacts we need to get into the Dragon Lord's castle. So, where are we heading next? I'm glad you asked, because now we're heading to Hawksness, a town that the Dragon Lord's army absolutely obliterated. There are no NPCs and no shops whatsoever. Just monsters wandering around, waiting to absolutely kick your teeth in. But if you know where to look, and I mean exactly where to look, you'll find an Axe Knight guarding a very special treasure, Erdrick's armor, the best armor in the entire game. And by the way, it's completely optional. As in, you could play the entire game and never get this or even know it exists. But you should get it, because this armor is absolutely incredible. It makes it to where poisonous swamps do 0 damage, it heals you a little bit every few steps, and it has straight up fantastic defense. And without this armor, poisonous swamps will chew through your HP like a wood chipper. And honestly, despite the fact that most first-time players, or most players in general for that matter, won't know where it is without outside help, I don't really think how they handled this armor is a problem. Like, I don't mind that they didn't give you any hints to where it was or anything like that, because it's optional. You don't have to have it, and it's so overpowered and strong that it makes sense that it would be hidden pretty well. But Erdrick's token, on the other hand, is a mandatory quest item. You cannot beat the game without it. So, where do you find this thing? In a chest? In a dungeon? Dropped by a boss? Given to you by an NPC? Nope. It is buried in a completely random tile in the middle of nowhere in a poisonous swamp at the very bottom of the map, with 0 indication that it exists. You have to walk to a part of the map you have no reason to ever visit, stand on a specific swamp tile, press search, and hope you don't die from poison before you find it. Assuming you don't have the Erdrick armor, by the way. This is not cryptic. This is not old school design. This is not challenging. This is classic NES era, I want you to buy Nintendo Power bullshit. And I hate it. Like, seriously, who thought this was a good idea? Who thought it was a good idea to place a mandatory quest item important to beat the game on a random tile in the middle of a poisonous swamp? What were they thinking? I'm fine with secrets. I'm fine with optional hidden items. But hiding a mandatory item in the middle of a random swamp with no hint is bullshit game design. Doing shit like this is a crime against your customers. So, the next thing on our shopping list is the Staff of Rain. How do you get it? Well, in the northern part of the map, there's a little shrine guarded by an old man. And this old man has the Staff of Rain. He's holding on to it, he's right there. He could just hand it over to you. But does he? Of course not. This is a JRPG. Nothing is ever that simple. No, instead, he tells you to get him the silver harp. So, what is this harp? Well, the harp belonged to a bard named Garin. I think that's how you say his name, who founded the town of Garinham. And when he died, he was buried there. And honestly, this is one of the few times I can give Dragon Quest I some genuine credit. A bard founded a town, the town is named after him, he was buried in that town, and his tomb contains his legendary harp. That's actually some pretty solid world building for an 8-bit game. And it's one of the rare moments where the game feels like it has a coherent history, instead of a bunch of random fantasy nouns thrown at a dartboard. Now, to get to his tomb, you're gonna need some magic keys. Also, while we're on our way to the tomb, I'm gonna show you what has to be the dumbest thing in all of Dragon Quest I. You open this door here, and you talk to this guard. And he says he's too busy. Talk to the other guard. So you do. And that guard says the exact same thing. And I just have to ask, what are they so busy doing? Masturbating in front of the other guard? Come on! You're standing in a private room, just sitting there, locked behind a door. What are you two doing that's keeping you so busy that you can't talk to me? Anyway, back to the tomb. You get to the tomb, and once you're inside, you get to enjoy a massive dungeon with a massive encounter rate and a very confusing layout. But if you wander around enough, you will find the silver harp eventually. So, what does this magical, legendary, lore-rich harp actually do? It plays nice music. And it summons monsters. That's it. It is, for all practical purposes, worthless. But the old man wants it anyway. Why? No idea. He knows it summons monsters. He acknowledges it when you first talk to him. But he still wants it. Why? No clue. Maybe he's lonely. Maybe he's bored. Maybe being alone by himself in the middle of nowhere at the top of the map has driven him mad, and he wants to end it all by summoning a bunch of monsters to finish him off and end his suffering and madness? I don't know. But hey, we need the Staff of Rain, so we hand over the harp and hope he doesn't get eaten by monsters? Who am I kidding? I don't care what happens to the old man. I'm just glad I got the Staff of Rain. Okay, so now that we've collected all 3 of the artifacts we need, the Sunstone, the Staff of Rain, and Erdrick's Token, how do we actually make the Rainbow Bridge? Easy. Just go to this old man at the bottom of the map, hand him the necessary items, and he'll give you the Rainbow Drop. Then you walk to the peninsula, pointing towards the Dragon Lord's castle, use the Rainbow Drop, and boom! Instant bridge. So, we're finally ready to storm the Dragon Lord's castle and... oh crap! The princess! Yeah, remember her? The princess who got kidnapped 6 months ago? The one the king begged you to rescue? The one you absolutely will forget exists until the game reminds you. Yeah, her. Good news, rescuing her is entirely optional. You can beat the entire game without saving her and just leave her in the cave forever. Like she's DLC you didn't want to buy. But if you do want to rescue her, she's in the swamp cave in the underwater tunnel that we used to even get to this part of the continent. Rescuing her is pretty easy. Just beat the green dragon guarding her, unlock the door, and go into the room, and the princess is just sitting in there. And if you talk to her, she will ask you, "Will thou take me to the castle?" And here's the best part. You cannot say no. You can tell her no all day, and she will simply respond, "But thou must." This princess does not negotiate. She does not compromise, and she does not accept rejection. She's the JRPG equivalent of a pop-up ad. So you have to pick her up and carry her all the way back to Tanticle Castle, where she gives you Gwaylin's Love, an item that tells you how much more XP you need to level up, and tells you how far from Tanticle Castle you are. So yeah, it's basically a Fitbit. Oh, and also, now she's in love with you. Yeah. Oh, don't worry, this is important to the ending later. So now that we've done that, we can finally head to the Dragon Lord's castle. Inside, you'll find a giant labyrinthian dungeon, enemies that hit like trucks, and Erdrick's sword, the strongest weapon in the game. Seriously, get this sword. It makes the final boss fight way more manageable. So go through this dungeon long enough and you'll eventually reach the Dragon Lord. He'll actually offer you a chance to join him, but seriously, tell him no. You don't really get anything different if you say yes. The screen just goes to black. So tell him no if you want to actually beat the game. And then you have to fight him as the last boss. You beat him, and he will reveal his second form, which looks like an actual dragon. It's a tough fight, so make sure you're all leveled up and geared up. And once you beat him, that's it, you win. All the monsters disappear from the map, no more random encounters anywhere, and you can walk wherever you want. It's peaceful, it's quiet, it's also completely pointless because there's nothing left to do in the game. Oh, and the shops, they stopped selling things. Yes, every shopkeeper and every NPC for that matter just says, when you talk to them, something along the lines of, "Hooray, hooray, long live Zelda." Which is great, I appreciate the love, but also, buddy, can I buy a potion? Seriously, can I buy one? Not that I need one, nothing can hurt me anymore, but still, can I buy anything from you? Anyway, to beat the game fully, you have to return to the king and talk to him. He'll offer you the throne, and for the first time in the entire game, your player character actually speaks and basically says, "Nah, I'm good. I'm gonna find my own land." Then the princess comes downstairs and says she wants to accompany you and be your wife. And once again, you cannot say no. You can reject her all day, and she'll just hit you with, "But thou must." So you pick her up and walk off into the sunset to start your own kingdom somewhere. Where? No idea. Roll credits. And right about now, you're probably wondering, what happens if you beat Dragon Quest without rescuing the princess? Great question. And yes, I actually tested this. And the answer is, almost nothing changes. If you beat the game without rescuing the princess, the ending plays out basically the same, except she doesn't show up, she doesn't force you into marriage, and you just walk off alone into the sunset to start your own kingdom and probably pick up another princess along the way and marry that one instead. It's the 8-bit era. Princesses that need rescuing grow on trees. But if you want something extremely hilarious, rescue Princess Gwaelin right after beating the Dragon Lord. Yes, you can do that. And it's actually easier to do it this way because there's no green dragon guarding her. Just grab her, pick her up, carry her to the castle, and that's when the comedy starts. You carry her to the king, the conversation goes just like normal, until she then stands up beside him for like 15 seconds just to ask if she can go with you to start your own kingdom. You will eventually have to say yes. She then jumps back into your arms, and then you walk off carrying her with you to start your own kingdom. It is unintentionally one of the funniest sequences in the entire game. It's like, let me stand up real quick so I can ask this gentleman to marry me. But I'm not gonna let him say no. So when he eventually says yes, I am then gonna get back into his arms. Then we can go off and do our own thing. And I'm just like, what? This is just next level hilarity. So, we're at the end of my Dragon Quest review. And what did I think of the game? Well, it's not great. I can confidently say, by today's standards, Dragon Quest I is not a very good game. For its time, it was absolutely groundbreaking. It practically invented the console JRPG. But in 2026, yeah, no, this thing shows its age harder than a CRT TV. Let's start with the biggest problem that I'm pretty sure I mentioned once or twice throughout this video. The grinding. Oh boy, the grinding. About 80% of your playtime is spent fighting the same handful of enemies over and over again just to get enough gold to buy weapons and armor and enough levels not to die instantly. And the combat isn't deep, it's not strategic, and it's not tactical at all. It's basically, do you have bigger numbers than the enemy? No? Then die. Sure, you get spells like sleep, hurt, hurt more, heal, and heal more, but the spell names sound so unbelievably stupid. Like, hurt more? Who came up with the idea for the spell hurt more? So, does it just hurt more than hitting someone with a sword? And then we get to the world map. The world of Dragon Quest I isn't very big. And not only is it not very big, there's not a whole lot to do in it. There are technically a few optional things you can do beyond the main quest, like get Erdrick's armor and the fairy flute, and of course rescuing the princess. But none of it's that deep, and it's all pretty surface level. And just in case you didn't already guess from listening to me rant about the game for 25 minutes, the story is about as deep as a puddle. There's no character development, no plot twists, no emotional arcs, and no real progression. If you remove the grinding, the game would probably be 2 to 3 hours long at most. And also, there's no extra party members. It's just you, and all combat encounters are 1v1. So yeah, that gets tedious very fast. But if there's something I can give the game credit for, it's that most of the time, if you talk to NPCs, you'll get hints about most of the important stuff you have to do in the game. Also, all the old Shakespearean English that all the NPCs have, I like that. I think that's kind of cute. Not the biggest fan of Shakespeare. I know a little bit about it because my friend Bebe growing up was a fan of Shakespeare big time, but that's where all my knowledge stops. Also, my favorite Shakespeare quote is, "Cry havoc and let slip the dogs of war." Thought I would throw that out there. Anyway, I'm way off topic. But even if you talk to all the NPCs, there's random bullshit like Erdrick's token being hidden in the middle of a random swamp. And to my knowledge, there's no NPC hint that tells you where to find this thing. It's just classic NES era nonsense designed to sell strategy guides. And I hate it. And then we get to the music, and other than the main theme, nothing here is that good. Some tracks are okay, some are tolerable, but eventually you'll hear them so much that you just want to mute the video game. Tell me, do you like this battle theme? Does it sound good? How would you feel about listening to it constantly for about 10 hours? Trust me, you'll be hearing this combat theme a lot. And trust me, it will get very, very, very annoying. So if you're wondering why I mostly had Sonic and the Black Knight music playing in the background of the video instead of Dragon Quest music, that's why. Because I just don't like the soundtrack that much. So yeah, unless you're trying to experience a piece of RPG history, or trying to experience it for novelty's sake, or you're a full-blown masochist, I would not recommend the original Dragon Quest. I respect it, I appreciate it for what it did for the genre, but actually playing it in 2026 is rough. But hey, I'm glad I made this video. And now that I've survived Dragon Quest I for the second time in my life, I'm honestly curious what I'm gonna think of Dragon Quest 2, 3, and 4. I'm playing Dragon Quest II immediately after finishing this one, and I want to see how the series improves the formula. Because it has to improve, right? It can't get worse, right? So yeah, that video will come out next Saturday. And before anyone asks, no, I'm not beating an entire JRPG in a week. I'm making these videos months in advance. I'm actually finishing the recording for this one in early April. Gotta keep that upload schedule alive somehow. Anyway, I appreciate you watching. Seriously, drop a comment down below with your thoughts and memories of the original Dragon Quest. I love reading comments and hearing people's personal stories. It's honestly one of my favorite parts of being on YouTube. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. And if you want to support the channel even more, my game, Nova Rebellion, is out right now on Steam and itch.io. And most importantly, coming this July, my studio's releasing its first RPG, Myths and Monsters. I'll end the video with a trailer for that game. So, this is the Anti-Gamer Slayer, signing off! Hey, you! Yes, you! Doom Scroller! Do I have the thing that's absolutely gonna test your attention span? First off, this RPG has no voice acting! None! Zero! You actually have to read, which already disqualifies half the internet from playing it. And the combat? Yeah, you can't just mash attack and pray. Try that here, and you'll be staring at the game over screen in no time if you don't use your brain. The game doesn't hold your hand either. It's hard, like actually hard, the kind of hard that makes you question your life choices. World map? Pfft! Who needs a world map? You get a compass. It shows your coordinates. I hope you wrote down where you were supposed to go when the NPC told you. If not, too bad. Figure it out, chump. Myths and monsters. If your brain's been asleep for a decade, it's about to get a wake-up call.